Eagles cornerback Kelee Ringo still hasn't put pen to paper on his contract, but not to worry, the Birds have big plans for the 20-year-old rook. And why haven't we heard much about newly acquired running back Rashaad Penny? Let's talk about how legit are the concerns that he doesn't make the final roster. Plus, my favorite rookie is at it again, but first, let's run it. Hey guys, I'm Josh and I cover the Birds. So if you don't recall, Nick Sirianni left the team with two pieces of advice before they ended OTAs. One, come back in the best shape of your life, and two, stay out of the news. At this point, I'd say everyone's listening, and maybe no one more so than rookie Nolan Smith after he posted on his Instagram that he's been working out like an absolute maniac with Bengals rookie pass rusher Myles Murphy. And in case you might be wondering why the two are working out together, they're both from Georgia, so it only makes sense that two of the best edge players in the draft get together. The crazy part is that this is coming after Nolan already attended the Von Miller camp in Vegas, so add that to the list of another reason why Nolan is my favorite rook.
Will you ever quit?
He's not the only one putting in the work, as Devontae Smith has been getting in reps with Nelson Agholor to work on his overall strength in what's sure to be his best season yet. And then there's Dallas Goedert, who's attended the Tight End University hosted by George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Greg Olsen. Okay, I know Raising Cane's is good, but not sure that falls into the best shape of your life category. Everyone's entitled to a cheat meal, right? Even Haason Reddick is taking in some R&R in Mykonos, but he'll be ready to go by camp. I'm not saying I'm worried about anyone, although one guy who's motivated and getting creative with his training is Kelee Ringo. Yet surprisingly, he still hasn't signed his contract with Philly.
Because I'm freaking out by the fact that you're not freaking out.
I've had several comments asking for an update on Ringo, but no need to worry because as I've mentioned, Cam Jurgens didn't sign until July last season, all stemming from guaranteed money negotiations, and even the year prior, Landon Dickerson didn't sign until July 26th. Kelee Ringo is in the Birds' future plans. You don't trade up in the middle of the draft to select a player you're not sure about making a meaningful impact. And as GM Howie Roseman said, Ringo was the guy. He was higher than the third-round pick we traded, and we felt like this was a 20-year-old kid who's a good kid, tremendous physical tools, and we really have an opportunity to develop him. So he doesn't have to come in here and be a superhero. We think we have tremendous veterans at that position who can show the way. Despite wherever you'd rank the dynamic duo of Slay and Bradbury, I think we can all agree their experience and playmaking ability is up there with some of the best in the league, which is obviously a huge plus, and defensive back coach DK McDonald has made it very clear he wants Ringo to learn from the vets.
It's really valuable. Not so much, I mean, it is out in the field, but especially in the room, in the meeting room. You know, he gets to sit beside Bradbury and Slay and ask them questions, pick their brain, you know, on some of the successes that they had, and those two guys have had a lot of successes in this league. I mean, they got well-earned reputations. So he gets to ask those questions, the warts that they have, the scars that they have. So that's been really good. And then to watch how they work on the field, you know, that's the most impressive thing about those two guys. Is not all the accolades they have, is that they work really hard to get those. And if you watch them out on the field, they go full speed. And so that's why they are who they are. And I think he's really starting to see that and work in that aspect too, and so it's going to give him a bright future in this league.
Which I think Ringo will, but if you're questioning why Josh Jobe was still getting most of the second team reps at OTAs instead of Ringo, that's a fair point, but let's remember the Eagles have a history of sometimes allowing rookies to ease into the team ahead of training camp. Ringo will for sure be on the 53-man roster, and I think he'll end up being a solid player who's available for depth this season in case Slay or Bradbury go down. But how are you all feeling about the defensive backs? Honestly, if I'm looking at the cornerback spot, I'd say Greedy Williams makes it along with Avonte Maddox and Zach McPherson, but I don't know about Josiah Scott or Mario Goodrich or even the undrafted free agents like Eli Ricks and Mekhi Gardner. I talked more about them on a previous video, but obviously that's why we have training camp, because there's always one or two surprises that leave us shocked.
Oh, I did not see that coming.
If you had to call it right now, who's your big surprise to come out of training camp, or maybe not come out of training camp? According to Delaware Journal's Martin Frank, the player in jeopardy of not making the team is newly acquired running back Rashaad Penny, after he said, if Trey Sermon makes the roster, it most likely means that either Boston Scott or Rashaad Penny won't. Penny hasn't played more than 10 games in a season since his rookie year in 2017, and he played in only 5 games for Seattle last season after breaking his leg. True, he's definitely had injury concerns, and SI.com's John McMullen isn't sure about the physical runner because there wasn't a lot of buzz about him this spring. So John gets the feeling Penny is in the back of the mind of some of the coaching staff. And like it was mentioned earlier, Nick Sirianni really likes Trey Sermon since he brings up the RB nearly every time he's asked about the team's ball carriers. So if Sermon has a strong summer coupled with a Rashaad Penny injury, McMullen argues it could be the cocktail for a surprise. Okay, sure, if there's an injury, I think that might uproot the plans the squad has for Penny, and let's not sugarcoat it, the dude has an ungodly amount of misfortune. Missing 2 games with a knee injury in 2018, missing 3 games early in 2019 with a hamstring injury, tearing his ACL in 2019, injuring his calf in 2021, and breaking his tibia in week 5 last season. How much more can this guy take? To his credit, Penny has come back each time strong, if not stronger, than he was before the injury, but you do have to wonder at what point are all these lower body injuries going to take a toll?
Snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap.
Plus, as Jimmy Kimsky of the Philly Voice shared, Penny isn't likely to be much of a factor in the passing game since he has just 27 career catches and has never had more than 10 in one season. And with guys like DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell, I doubt he'll catch more than a few passes this season. He seems to catch the ball well enough on short throws, so could perhaps be used on some screens or misdirection plays, but he won't be lining up in the slot like Brian Westbrook. With all that said, are you guys worried he doesn't make the roster? For me, I think Penny's a lock, barring injury, because the 27-year-old's running style is too good of a fit for this Eagles offense. And like Kimsky says, he's a power back at 220 pounds who runs with excellent energy, good vision, and his short choppy steps allow him to follow his blocks as they develop down the field, while also giving him surprisingly good lateral elusiveness. Those quick choppy steps allow him to run under control, making him a very effective bad weather back. So go ahead and file that away for December and January, assuming Penny's still up and running by then, because I agree with Jimmy. This dude's a beast, and his 6.2 yards per carry over the last 2 abbreviated seasons are insane, especially considering the fact that he was running behind the Seahawks offensive line. Just imagine what he'll be able to do with this unit blocking for him. In a perfect world, I think you see a balance between Swift, Kenny G, and Penny, with my hope being that Penny gets more action late in the game when the birds are up, the defense is gassed, and Rashaad's physically imposing running style will be unstoppable. I don't know, am I crazy or what do you guys think? I'll go ahead and call it now that Penny has his best game of the season in Seattle, just reading between the lines, but when the Seahawks SB Nation comes right out and says, the biggest regret will be losing Rashaad Penny, that's saying something, which is why I say there's no need to overreact to OTAs since you can't really tell much about a non-pass catching back there. Let's wait until camp and see what we've got. Speaking of training camp, Cowboys defensive end DeMarcus Lawrence went on the AP Pro Football podcast and said he didn't feel like there's a big gap between the boys and the birds, since he feels they've made the necessary adjustments and learned the different things that they needed to so they can fully function like everyone knows how they can. Oh, cool, so you mean no more of the blunders we're accustomed to seeing. All right, well, if you want to believe that, go right ahead, Tank.
Maybe I should tell him.
It's also funny, notice how Tank concedes that there's even a gap in the first place, which is pretty telling since a lot of times players would just say, oh, there's no gap. The main difference among several is that the Cowboys don't have one of the best players in the NFL, and in case you somehow missed it, Jalen Hurts was nominated as a finalist for the ESPY Award of Best NFL Player. The other nominees were San Francisco's Nick Bosa, Minnesota's Justin Jefferson, and Kansas City's Patrick Mahomes. So get out there and vote. That sounded like a political ad. Seriously, you have between now and July 9th to go vote for Jalen. I'll put a link in the description, but going back to the argument with the Cowboys, I guess you could say they're close since they'll probably be the only main competition in the division, although teams have surprised us. It's just we know what the Cowboys are, and unfortunately for them, Dak isn't the answer to get you anywhere far in the playoffs. But what do you guys think? Are they close? Far? How concerned are you about Dallas? I say we'll break the streak and finally win the NFC East in back-to-back years. This has been the Philly Special.